everyone, it's Shanna Makes It, and I'm part of the design team for Love From Lizi, and I am here to work with the super kit for September 2025. This kit is fantastic. There are so many wonderful things in it. As you know, this is a yearly thank you from Lizi for supporting her and her business, and the subscribers get this kit at their usual invoice rate, despite it being nearly double the usual rate. The kit is available individually, but at a higher than normal rate if you're not a subscriber. The super kit will typically sell out quickly, so if you want to get it, you're going to want to act now. I will link all the materials in the description box below so you can check them out, but we're going to get started on the first card, and we are bringing in some of the fun elements. I've got part of the paper pad here, and I've just cut a beautiful panel, and we're just going to layer it up on the specialty cardstock from Love From Lizi. And I have die cut the window that is the die included in the set from the base panel so that I could kind of salvage my cardstock and make everything match. So we're going to get this panel laid down on there. And for this one, I am using some of that fun bonus box with the dried flowers, and I've got the doily here. I'm going to lay it down. I love the doilies. I actually have the doily dies that Lizi offers, and they make some smaller doilies, but these are certainly fun. And actually, my first couple cards we're going to use the doilies on. So I'm going to bring in some of the dried flowers from the bonus box, and we're going to lay some of them down on here, and I think it's just a really fun element. These flowers here kind of go in all different directions, and so I'm just going to get them laid down on there, and we're just going to start building our card. So I'm just trying to get a good amount of glue on there so that they will adhere. And I'm not gluing it all down. I want there to be movement, and I want there to be dimension, and I want these flowers to continue to move around. But we're going to get them to where at least they will stay on there really well. The other thing I'm going to bring in are one of those pearl branch blooms, and I'm just going to tuck the metal part underneath my doily and get it positioned down there, and then we're going to add some other elements with some glue on top of it, and then that'll keep it from coming out. So we're just going to layer those elements together. I'm going to bring in a piece of ephemera. I'm going to use some foam tape, and we'll get it popped up and laid down on our little cluster. And I chose to just put foam on this one side thinking that that's all I needed, but I will come back in and add a little bit more. But that foam tape will help to hold down those other elements. So for this, I went ahead and die cut the window out of my bottom panel, and then I brought in some more of the specialty cardstock from Lizi, and I just basically held my die on this glitter paper and just trimmed around it so that I could have a backer on my die, my window die. And this window die is fun because the shutters open, and so you can have some dimension. You can tuck some things in there if you want. And it's got some really pretty detail on it as well. So I'm just going to line it up and get it arranged on there, and then you actually can lift those shutters and just have some dimension. So I've got glitter cardstock, so I've got to give it a press and let it get dried on there. And then we're just going to kind of tuck this in. I had envisioned that this is like a flower that's growing up the side of the house, and it's kind of growing around the window. And so I kind of wanted to drape it around the window and just kind of create like a outdoor scene where we've got a plant, kind of climbing up the house around the window. Get some glue on there, and we'll get it positioned down in there. And I'm going to, I'm kind of messing with those flowers a little bit. I'm going to bring in some ephemera, the butterfly ephemera, and get it laid down on there. And just kind of prop my windows open a little bit. So here's where I decided I'm going to tuck a little bit more foam tape in on this left side of this ephemera just so that it lays really good and flat. Now here is my butterfly, and I'm going to just put it on one of the shutters, and it kind of looks like it's just landed right there on the open shutter because my shutter is still kind of open. And I've got some foam tape, and we'll get it laid down on there. Now I've also got one of those, the rosettes that have the ribbon around them, the white ribbon roses, or the white roses with the ribbon, I guess is what I mean to say. I'm just going to put a glob of glue on there. I think I'll also grab a dot runner. A lot of times when I have something like this, I like to add a little dot, one of those dots you use. I've got that, and I'm just going to stick it on the bottom of my rose, and then I'll get it laid down on here. Now this is going to be a little bit of a longer video because I did do 6 cards, and then I will also show you the 7th card that I did for my unboxing. Now these cards are very unusual, so I would encourage you to stay till the end so that you can look at all of the different cards that I make. I'm trying to feature a lot of the items that are in the kit just to give you some inspiration and some ideas of some different things to do. So what I did basically was I just sat down and just kind of mapped out what I wanted to do, and I just kind of stacked everything on each card base so that I would have it ready and we could get it together fairly quickly on the video. But it does take some time to do 6 cards. So you can see I used a die, and I die cut out a rectangle out of this panel so that I could put my sentiment. I could use the same color as my card base for my sentiment, and so that's what I did. And what I have on my sentiment is, and they lived happily ever after. The end is what that particular stamp says. And I've got in mind, I'm going to my great niece's wedding next month, and I thought this would be a great card for their wedding. So I thought that's why I chose to use that sentiment. Now on this, I'm using that lovely dark blue paper. I just think it's stunning. And I'm going to get it laid down on there. We're going to bring another doily in. Look at that. Just in and of itself, it's just gorgeous with that, the marzipan paper, I think is what that's called. And then we've got the navy on there. It's really pretty. And we're going to bring in this doily, and we're going to lay it down again and create just a little clustered focal point area. So I'm going to do kind of like a swag, and then I'm going to add an extra layer to it just so we'll have some fullness of flowers on our card, and I think it'll look really pretty. Kind of brings in some different colors. The swag kind of had the kind of the golden yellow flowers, and then this one has kind of a deeper purple and just really pretty. So we'll pop this one up, and then we'll layer it over the other one. And then we can get our sentiment. And I am going to bring in some of those embellishments. I think they're called the Aurora Roses is what I'm going to bring in. So you can see our sentiment, and they lived happily ever after, the end. And then we'll put our Aurora Roses on there. And I'm just going to use 3 of them, so I'll have 2 more left for other cards should I choose to use them. And again, I'm just going to take my glue and just make a nice little glob on there so that I make sure that they adhere very nicely. And we'll just set that aside and let that glue dry, and then we'll have our embellishments on there. And then that'll finish off this card. I think it's really pretty. There's just so much goodness in this kit. I would imagine you could probably get double as many cards, maybe even triple as many cards as what I make on this video, but we're going to do the 6th, and then I'll show you my 7th one. So I thought I'd bring in a piece of that foiled vellum. I'm just trying to use all the different elements of the card. So I'm going to bring it in. I didn't have a card base, so I had to run and grab a couple card bases so I could get it laid down. So I am using A2 size cards for all of these. That's generally kind of what I gravitate to, unless I've got some big scenes. And I'm just showing you, this is the vellum that has been foiled, and I've got it cut to layer up on my panel. Now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to use the areas that are foiled, and I'm going to bring in my dot runner and just lay down some of that dot runner in the areas where it has been foiled. And I'll use that for the adherence. I'm not going to do it where there's just vellum because I don't want that to show through. It is pretty thick vellum, I noticed. So you might be able to get away with a little bit of glue on there. So I'll just give it a good press in the areas where I laid the dot runner down, and we've got our panel. Now for this, before I lay it on my card base, I want to bring in some twine, and I'm going to add one of those gold flower charms on this because I thought with the gold foil, the flower charm would look nice. So I'll run a bead of tape runner there, and I'm just going to lay my my twine down there on it. Now I'll tell you, you know, this, most of you that are getting this card or this kit are subscribers. This twine that I'm using was from last month's kit. We had some blue and some purple in there, and I had this blue piece left, and I thought, well, I'm just going to use it. I do pull in some different things from other kits as well, just as I'm working with this. And I'll try to point that out as I go. So I'm just going to tie this up. I'll kind of struggle with it because I can't get my fingers to work, but we'll get a couple knots in it, and then we'll get our gold flower charm added to it, and then we can tie a bow in it. I'm going to use these tweezers to kind of give me an extra set of hands. Normally when I'm tying a bow, I have my husband stick his finger in there, and then I tie the bow around it. But I couldn't do that tonight. He was busy. So we'll just get a knot in it, and then we're going to add our charm. And then we'll tie another knot, and then we'll put a bow in it, and we will have a gold charm laying on there. And I thought that went nicely with the foiled vellum that we're using here. And off to the side there, I've got a couple of pieces of ephemera that we'll use for focal points on this card. And if I can get my fingers to work. Just pulling it good and tight. And I was kind of giving up on a bow, and then I thought, I think I can get a bow now. So I'll try it again, and we'll get a bow in there. Now some of the cards I really layered up and clustered up, and then some of them I left a little bit more simple. So I thought it would kind of cater to everybody's taste and just give you some different ideas of different ways to use the kit. Again, I'm using that dot runner. And we'll get it laid down on there. A lot of times when I have foil, I do like to use the tape runner or the double-sided tape or something because it's sometimes hard to get it to stick when you've got foil. At least it just takes a minute longer. So the tape runner helps to get kind of an instant hold, and then your glue will dry. And then I'm just going to bring in a little blue butterfly and get it laid down on there. And we're going to keep this one real simple. And there we go. So we've got our third card. So we're just going to keep going. And I hope you'll stay with me because we've got some interesting things to look at. I promise. Now here, this is another thing that I used from last month's kit. This was the vellum that was included in the kit that was self-adhesive. And so I took that vellum and I stamped the stamp from this month's kit in black, and we're just kind of doing like a silhouette type thing. And I think it looks really pretty. Now, it does change its look once I pull the backer sheet off of it, but it just gives you a different look, and you can tell it's vellum. So I'm using some of that matte gold specialty cardstock, and we're going to get it laid down on here. And I've got the forest green cardstock, which I'm in love with that. I need to get some of that. That color is just fantastic. I love it. So I'm going to lay this down, and we're just going to have just kind of a, just a panel on panel here. And then we're going to bring in our vellum that has the self-adhesive on it. I'm just going to pull the backer off, and I'm holding my breath hoping I get this thing laid down there all right. And I think I do okay. And you'll see as it adheres, you can kind of see it changing colors, and I'm kind of pushing my finger down on there to get it to kind of even out. as it adheres. And I'm just going to keep this one real simple. I'm going to bring in some of the gold mini embellishment gems that were included in last month's kit, and I'm going to use those. I'm trying to find them. I have the large ones and the mini ones laying on my desk, and I'm looking for them. I even lifted my glass mat. That's what you saw there, and I found them. They were right in plain sight. If if it had been a snake, I'd have been bit. So I'm just going to take and lay, I don't know, 3 of these down on here and just add a little extra sparkle. This does say with heartfelt sympathy, so I didn't want to bling it up too much. And we'll just lay some of these down. I just wanted to keep it simple. I love the stamp image in the black. I think it's beautiful. It's very fine. It's just got a real fine detail on it, so it looks really, really pretty. And I probably should have moved the foil cards off of the glass mat because we're getting some reflection from the light there. So there we go. Another interesting card using the kit. Now, I wanted to do another one of the stamps. I was trying to highlight everything. So I went ahead and I ink blended a panel, and I used my spun sugar, and I used my linen, antique linen, and I used my tumble glass, I think. And I just blended them. I actually took a panel that I had die cut an oval out of, and I just laid it down on there. I didn't have a stencil. I just took a panel that I had already gutted the center out, and I taped it down, and I just ink blended it, and then I used the stamp that's included in the kit with some onyx black ink and just stamped it down there, and I think it's really pretty and very simple, a clean card. And I like it on the, I think that's the marzipan colored cardstock. I thought it looked really pretty. And I'm working this card base over. I think I'm going to trim it up a little bit. On a couple of my card bases, when I laid them down, I could just see a tiny little bit of white on the sides. And so you'll see I'll cut a couple of them just to clean them up so that they'll look nice. And once I did that, then it looked like the other side needed trim. So I went ahead and trimmed the bottom a bit as well and just kind of cleaned up that card base. So now we're going to bring in a panel. Now here I just took my Canson watercolor paper and I did my ink blending on it and stamped on it. And I used the Misty to stamp the flower arrangement and then the Happy Birthday to You sentiment. And I think this is a really pretty card. I got my glue thing so that I could keep the glue at the tip of the glue bottle because I kept having to shake it. So we'll just get this pressed down on there, and I think it's really pretty. I think it can be simple and clean, and that's all you need. So this next one, my 6th card, is going to be fun. You know, we got those, what are those called? Glass bubble windows. And I'm going to bring those glass bubble windows in and make a card with them. And I'll tell you what I did with them. I took them and I had a strip of pattern paper that I had cut off, and I set the glass on a flower. I used that dot runner and put just a little bit of dot runner along the top and the bottom and laid them down on my pattern paper and positioned them to where I had a nice floral or leaf element showing through there, and then I just trimmed around those glass bubbles. And so I'm using 3 of them on this card. I still have a couple left. And I will tell you, as I was playing with the glass bubbles I had all of my materials kind of spread out. One of them landed on top of that gold charm, flower charm, and it looked really cool. I know that would be a lot of dimension or whatever, but it looks really neat. So that's an idea. So for this one, I've just stamped if friends were flowers, I'd pick you. And I did the single rose, and I'm bringing in the corner rounder that was included in the kit. And I'm just going to round the corners on this. And I think that looks nice because the glass bubble windows, they have rounded corners, and so I think it goes nice. Now, because I'm going to have my glass bubbles on the left side of my flower, I felt like I needed something on the right side of my flower to balance it. So I'm going to bring in 2 of these gold pill-offs, and we'll get them laid down on here. And that will help balance out my card. And I think I've used a lot of the elements from the kit just to kind of represent several items and to give you a little bit of inspiration for this. So I hope that you've enjoyed this, and I hope you stayed till the end. And remember to shop Love From Lizi. I'm going to I'll include everything in the description box below so that you can check it out. If you have not purchased the kit, if you're not a subscriber to Lizi, I would recommend that you subscribe and get the kit, because her kits are always chocked full of so much fun, and then especially this kit, as it's the super kit. So I'm going to get this panel laid down on there, and I think it looks really pretty. So here's our glass bubble windows, and I'm just using that dot runner, and I'm just going to put some dots on there and get them laid down. I think I decide that my dot runner was empty, and I'm going to grab a double-sided tape, and I'll put a strip of double-sided tape down on each one of these windows. And this one I got a little long, so I'll just pull it off, and then I can just tuck it back on top of itself, and then we'll have a good adherence. And I'm going to position the other 2 just to kind of give me an idea of my spacing. And then I can lay that one down, and then we'll just kind of space them out accordingly. Just give it a good press. They seem to stick pretty well. And we'll put some more double-sided tape on these last 2 and get these laid down on there. I had a little spot on there I was trying to rub off. I think I will grab an eraser and just erase it off of there. Sometimes when you're doing this many cards, you get some glue on your fingers or whatever, and you might get a little glue spot. So I'm just wiping it off there. And then we'll get our middle one laid down. And I'm just going to try and center it between the other 2 and just try and get them laid down there straight. So that'll finish off our 6th card. I'm going to bring in the one that I made on my unboxing on my channel, Shanna Makes It, and I'll show you it. This one I wanted to show the foiling, because we don't normally get foiling in the kit. So for my unboxing, I did a foiling of one of the small images. So here's the first card we made today with a window. And then we've got the one with the doily. It's the wedding card. And then we've got our gold flower charm on there with our gold foiled. And then here's the one where I did the stamping on the self-adhesive. And then we've got the birthday card. And then we've got the bubble card. And I think they're super fun. So I hope you enjoyed them. Thanks for watching, and have a great day. Take care now. Bye-bye.